Since the emergence of ISIS, many questions have been asked about the sources of its finance, and after the increase of its terrorist activities in both Syria and Iraq, it became clear that it is using the oil wells. Sky News Arabia got some images which are exclusive from Syria, which give us an idea about the oil game in that country that is torn by war and destruction. Since the beginning of the war in Syria, the oil has always been involved in that war. The crude oil in Syria is distributed in areas that are controlled by ISIS, others by Kurdish militias and Syrian government forces. However, the control of ISIS on large areas of oil made its resources from and revenues very high, and turned its production of oil into smuggling, especially, for instance, if we look at Deir ez-Zor, eastern Syria, where ISIS produces thousands of barrels monthly. According to some local references, the production of oil in 2015 reached about 40,000 barrels of oil, and each is $15, but the oil price of the barrel reaches $45 in other wells like Al Omar well, one of the biggest oil wells in Syria, which led to more revenues for ISIS, about $1.5 million per day. This monopoly of this oil wells by ISIS decreased gradually because of the attacks of the international coalition and Russia. And another side which is controlling some oil wells are the Kurdish militias, especially the Al-Jabsa field in Al-Haska, where ISIS was producing about 3,000 barrels per day. In some images Sky News Arabia got from Al-Hasaka, we see the primitive refining of oil, where people work in coordination with the Kurdish militia and then sell this refined oil to traders and agents, and including some private refineries in Syria. To talk more about this topic, we have with us from Baghdad, U.S. military spokesman of the International Coalition Against ISIS, Colonel John Dorrian. Welcome to Sky News Arabia, Colonel. We are talking here particularly about the oil of Syria and Iraq, which supported ISIS and made it one of the richest organizations in the world. What are your information, and what's the impact of international coalition attacks on that reality?
Well, this is an enemy that craves legitimacy, and one of the ways that they do that is by financing their operations and providing services to their fighters and pay to their fighters. Pay for suicide bombers, and financing their operations. So one of the chief ways that they've done that is through the illicit sales of oil that they've stolen from the people of Iraq and the people of Syria. So the coalition strategy for this is to attack the oil infrastructure that they control and to attack them all the time and not let them to get the benefit of this illicit revenue.
But there are not clear reports how the oil commerce of ISIS have been affected with the government of Syria or Turkey from these attacks. Can you make it clear, please?
Well, one of the things that we've done is to attack this oil infrastructure. We've conducted 487 such attacks since January of 2016. This has eliminated a large source of revenue for the enemy. We believe that the efforts of the coalition has cost the enemy about $4.5 to $6.5 million a month, depending how often we strike.
Colonel, I would like to ask you about the advance of the battle in Mosul. You made a statement about the nature of ISIS fighters in the right side of Mosul. Can you give us a picture about the advance and the progress in this battle, and when the Iraqi forces will enter with your help to the other side?
Well, the Iraqi security forces are going to liberate the western side of Mosul just as they did the east, and the coalition is going to help them do it. We're going to conduct airstrikes relentlessly on the enemy and take away their fighters and their resources, their weapons, their vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices, and the Iraqi security forces will move over and begin their advance at a time of their choosing. We won't give out the time of that, but that's going to be something that they keep the element of surprise, and they're going to push the enemy out. The enemy's been weakened by months of fighting in the east side of Mosul, and they're going to be pushed out. It's just as simple as that.
Are we talking about timeline, time framework? Because many questions were asked about some contradictory statements by the Iraqi forces about the timeline of the battle and entering the western side. What are your estimations?
Well, you know, I'm not going to speak for the Iraqi security forces. They'll go into the western side as soon as they're ready to do so. We continue our coordination with them daily, and we're striking the enemy as the Iraqi security forces plan the operation to liberate the West. So the enemy is getting no rest whatsoever. We continue to strike them each and every day. Their fighters are under constant pressure, and it's really just a matter of time until they're all killed.
Colonel, there is another issue which is relevant to your operations and fighting terrorism in this coalition. There was a declaration that there is Syrian elite forces led by Ahmed al-Jarba, and he said that in coordination with you, this elite forces will be part of Raqqa battle, and he said that it is close. What is your comment?
Well, this is a good development because we believe that it's very important that Arab forces are a part of the force that will liberate Raqqa from Daesh. This is important because Raqqa is a city that is an Arab city, and so in order to be legitimate to the people of Raqqa, it's important that a very significant number of Arab fighters are a part of the liberation force. I have seen these reports. We welcome them. That's good. We'll continue our coordination also with our partners, our NATO ally Turkey, who have also made tremendous progress in defeating Daesh, and we'll continue to work with the Syrian Democratic Forces who have isolated the city to try and prevent Daesh from being able to do external operations. That's the export of terror outside the region.
In the last last January, there was the first attack joint by U.S. and Russia. In which context this attack was launched? Do we expect more joint attacks like that? And how can we say about the coordination with Russia?
Yeah, actually, that was misinformation. The reports about a joint attack with Russia and the United States were incorrect. Our interaction with Russia is to deconflict our operations. We're fighting Daesh, they're fighting sometimes Daesh, but sometimes other forces that are opposed to the regime. So what we do is we try to make sure that there's no incident where our forces either attack each other on the ground, or if there's any kind of incident where our air assets come too close together in the air. So this is the type of activity that we have with Russia. It's not coordination, and we don't conduct attacks together.
You talked about the incidents in the air, but now two contradictory sides, the government of Syria and the opposition, which are supported by Turkey in Al-Bab city. Do you have any information about whether there is a probability that there can be a clash about that?
Well, we coordinate a lot of activity for Turkey and their partnered force as they continue to try to liberate Al-Bab from Daesh. One of the things that we do in our coordination in our efforts with them is to make sure that we understand where their forces are on the ground. We've conducted strikes, and we've also provided intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capability so that they understand what's happening on the ground. We also continue our deconfliction effort with the Russian forces, and they speak with the regime forces. So this is a complicated battlefield. It's very important that we continue this type of deconfliction activity and our coordination activity with Turkey, and we will do so.
Colonel Dorrian, the United States provided the Kurds with very unique weapons. According to Turkish sources, what's your comment?
Well, we only provide weapons to the Syrian Arab coalition. They are fighting side by side with the Syrian Democratic Forces, but the weapons that we've provided are to the Syrian Arab coalition, and these are the Arab forces that have joined the SDF to liberate or to isolate Raqqa. So that's what we've done. That's the correct information about that.
The American President Donald Trump talked about a plan, a comprehensive plan to fight terrorism. What are your preparations for this plan?
Well, we continue all the things that we had been doing previously. First off, we've conducted strikes, both air and artillery strikes against the enemy. We've trained our partner forces so that they can defeat the enemy on the ground. We continue our advice and assistance to them on the ground, and all these things have continued. All this coordination has continued, the training, the equipping, all of those efforts are ongoing. In the meantime, we continue to work with our national leadership on a plan to accelerate the campaign. This is the direction that President Trump has given to the military forces, but I don't have any details to release on this at this time. That'll probably be done through the Pentagon.
Thank you very much, Colonel John Dorrian. You were with us from Baghdad. Thank you.
Very good. Glad to be with you.